Maybe you'll be a dad soon. Really.
Yeah, time for you.
Yeah.
Please come to Korea and rejuvenate our country.
Yes. Fill us up with your babies.
Welcome to YouTube's favorite K-pop show, DK News.
Danny.
David.
Lots of.
Hot as tea. We're in a rush because Danny has to go to work. First off, we have NewJeans halting all activities. Ador is baffled, and the Korean public gets super angry due to alleged anti-Korean interview with Time magazine and BBC.
And second, we have birth rates finally rebounding.
Okay, and finally something not K-pop on DK News.
And something
I'm
happy.
So refreshing.
A positive news.
Honestly though, this has been the biggest topic in Korea for a while, so don't skip this part. Last but not least, we have Kim Se-ron's family reveals text messages and letters from the late Kim Se-ron.
And on to the first news.
So everyone knows that the Seoul Central District Court recently has granted a temporary injunction filed by Ador against the 5 members of the group NewJeans, prohibiting the group from independently engaging in any entertainment activities or signing advertising contracts without Ador's prior approval. However, on March 23rd, during their performance at ComplexCon in Hong Kong, NewJeans proceeded with their show and announced, "Today's performance may be our last for some time. Following the court's decision, we've decided to halt all activities. It wasn't an easy decision, but it's necessary for us right now." And during this performance, the group introduced a new song titled Pit Stop, which we reacted to on Patreon. And the stage featured their newly chosen group named NJZ. Ador, the agency stated, "We deeply regret their performance under another name and their announcement to suspend activities without consultation. We remain committed to our contract and hope to discuss future plans with the artist soon." Also, in a recent BBC News Korea interview, members explained their reasons behind the suspension. Hani stated, "All the decisions we made over the past year resulted from extensive internal discussions. Honestly, it's not comfortable for us to keep bringing this up as it involves other teams as well, and we don't want to negatively impact them. Just because we're young, people might think we're taking these issues lightly, but that's absolutely not true. We've always agreed among ourselves that if even one member disagrees, we won't proceed. Decisions could only be made with all 5 members in agreement." Danielle commented, "After the court's ruling, we genuinely expected a different outcome. Everyone who saw the news was shocked. We just want to continue working. We want to do what we love without interference, lies, or misunderstandings." And last, Hain added, "Some people probably think we're incredibly famous and can do and say whatever you want. We held everything in for a long time and have only just started speaking up about the injustices we've experienced, yet socially things aren't working out in our favor." NewJeans also expressed disappointment in the court's ruling in an interview with Time magazine, suggesting it reflects broader issues within the Korean entertainment industry. They emphasized the need for industry-wide change and growth, hinting that Korean society may be pushing them into a role as revolutionists or reformers. Meanwhile, attorney Go Sang-rok from Kim Hyun-jang, which was a big fan of NewJeans, actually came out criticizing the group's comments about the Time interview in specific, stating it's time to wake up. He described their statements as disrespectful to the industry, veterans, and colleagues, and also the Korean media quickly picked up the Time magazine interview along with attorney Ko's criticism of NewJeans being anti-Korean. This sparked intense negative public reactions. Some online comments said they disregard contracts, ignore the law, and now they're ignoring Korea itself. Kids raised on K-pop, money now destroying the K-pop industry. They're stepping on their juniors before they even debut. If you're going to keep whining, stop being K-pop idols and just sing at a karaoke. Whoa, this is harsh.
That's hard.
Yeah, this behavior disrespects everyone who worked tirelessly to promote Korean culture globally. They owe their success to these efforts, but are now acting ungratefully. They should just disappear. Oof.
Oh, that's harsh.
In response to escalating online harassment, though, NewJeans' legal representative Sejong announced that they would proactively monitor online communities and social media and take legal action against defamatory and malicious comments. So that's what's been happening, and we've watched their Time and BBC full interview plus their new song on Patreon, so go check out our reactions and thoughts on the full interview and the after show. And my question for today is, what now?
I don't think anything's changed since last week.
It's gotten worse.
Yeah, it's actually actively gotten worse.
Yeah.
But either they drop their ego and go back to Ador, or they just can't really perform anymore legally. Now, just to be clear, the decision from the court last week, it wasn't banning them from performing. It was just telling them that you gotta perform under Ador.
Yeah.
They still have that door open, and Ador has consistently stated that they will have that door open for NewJeans. So as long as they come back, you know, they'll be ready to support. But so far, they haven't dropped their stance yet. But I think time will come. The only other scenario is Ador says, okay, we give up.
But that's not gonna happen.
Maybe they say, okay, like this is a pointless legal battle. They're not gonna be able to pay these huge amounts of penalty fees to us. Why don't we just like, you know, settle it and then you guys can do your own stuff?
That's never gonna happen.
Okay, well then.
I think it got worse because maybe there was a little silver lining there because Ador approached them and said like, oh, we're ready to support you for Complex Con. We can talk there. But then there was an article saying that Ador tried to contact them at the site, but then they got blocked. Yeah, so they had no interaction there. NewJeans on stage just announced that this is going to be their last performance for a while.
Oh,
they
so,
halted all activities.
So like Ador had no
idea.
access.
Yeah.
No access.
It's just crazy to think like even after the injunction, of course, we knew that they would appeal, but no one knew that they would declare like, oh, we're stopping all activities because we don't want to perform under Ador. I at least thought
pretty crazy.
If Ador opened doors for them to perform, they prepare for their new song and all that. They prepared a long time for that, right? So maybe if they were like, we prepared this for a long time for our fans, let's continue our performances, even if it's under Ador in the meantime, but we can still go with the legal stuff and the performances side by side. But then all the bridges are burnt now.
I don't think either one of them is gonna back down. Realistically, it's just the way it is. I doubt that the court ruling will be anything different from what we.
And speaking of court, we have the legal court and the public court. So until now, at least for the Korean side of the public court, it was half-half. But I think the balance has tilted to the negative side, especially with the Time interview, because of what the lawyer said as well, that it's anti-Korean. Do you think that interview was anti-Korean, as he states?
I don't think it was anti-Korean. I think it was criticizing the K-pop industry. Of course, there are lots of problems within the industry, but I think, like I said on Patreon, I got pretty triggered on Patreon while watching that interview. Basically, the problem is that they're only rookies, technically, only 2 years in being active. They haven't paid the dues in terms of in K-pop, in the industry, to say those kind of things and still be respected.
So like, if it was like a hugely respected, like massively successful figure in K-pop, like first generation or like big group that came out on an interview and they can state their own opinions, freedom of speech, right? You know, if they gone through a lot and they're just looking in retrospect and they want the good for their hubes, they want to pave the way for better treatment, then that can be justifiable. Or another case would be if it was like a hugely abused group, mistreated group, that there's a ton of evidence, there's like sexual harassment, there's like physical abuse and all that.
Or if NewJeans was from a much smaller company, but they just rose to this stardom, you know, in 2 years.
There are plenty of cases like Luna, they won on court. There was Omega X, I think. There are other groups too. In general, what they said in the interview itself would stand, but the timing, their situation, it's not painted in a good light.
No, definitely not. And I think that like they come from such a big company with so much money and funding towards the group, that just makes it kind of worse because like, oh, you've been one of the biggest beneficiaries of this K-pop system and this industry becoming so big. Like whatever they're saying is pretty fair, but it's just the general sentiment, especially in Korea where we care about seniority and your experience. And in Korea, like that will be taken as arrogant or disrespectful.
Why this became like a deal breaker in the Korean public sentiment is also not only that the lawyer stated it as anti-Korean, the angle of it wasn't really pretty. A lot of Korean people pointed out, oh, why are they going to these foreign outlets like Time and BBC and only doing interviews there? And
one could argue that the Korean media doesn't want to cover them positively.
Right, one could argue that, but then, you know, optics-wise, that's how it's presented. So the Korean public right now is like, the court ruled on Ador's side for the injunction, and then you halted all your activities. Now you're going to foreign media and talking about the Korean industry and K-pop industry. So the chain of these things, even if you were on NewJeans' side, such as that attorney, it's very hard to try to support them at this point. Right. Anyways, I think those two interviews did
more harm than
good. I sympathize with the girls, but then it's really hard to see their current situation in a positive light right now. I did see them trying to say we're uncomfortable about talking about other girl groups and we don't want to do any harm to them.
I do believe that they believe that with their heart, but it's just like at this point, the damage has been done. People are already pissed. So whatever you say at this point is now gone into damage control. Okay.
Anyways, check out more of our thoughts on Patreon and on to the next news.
Happy news.
Ooh, finally.
Korea is having babies again.
Wow.
Yes. This is like out of the blue.
Yeah.
Kind of. You know, like I've never expected to see this kind of news.
Yeah.
We are not disappearing yet.
We've extended maybe 10 more years.
Yes. Not 10. This is just for January. Don't get too excited.
Oh, okay.
South Korea's birth rate soars by 11.6% in January, the largest jump since 1981.
Wow.
After years of declining birth rates, Korea's birth rate jumped by a whopping 11.6% compared to January of last year. Now, South Korea's extreme birth rate decline has been well documented, and the country had been experiencing a concerning trend of declining birth rates for 8 consecutive years of just literally, like if you see the graph, it's like
my stock portfolio.
Yeah, very sad. And it reached the world's lowest birth rate, particularly in Seoul. The birth rate was just 0.58. For every couple, they will have 0.58 children. Despite 18% of the country's population residing there. So what is the reason behind this recent improvement?
That's what I'm curious about.
Experts suggest that marriages might be playing the key role. There was a notable rise in marriages, impressive 14.9% in 2024. Biggest jump since records started in 1970.
So what's the reason for increase in marriages?
Okay, the increase in marriages were due to the COVID pandemic because people stopped getting married during the pandemic because they weren't able to hold these big fancy weddings because of the social distancing rules. So they were like, let's see if the pandemic ends and then we can get married with lots of people. So after the pandemic ended, this whole explosion of marriages came into Korea.
Wait,
this is the actual explanation.
Wait, so what you're saying is, I'm using my social studies abilities here.
Yeah.
So the graph would have been like this, but then because of COVID, it was like this and this.
Exactly.
Okay.
So actually, it's a little bit of a, I guess,
it's a statistic thing.
Statistic trickery
where gosh.
You drop so hard that you can only go up from there.
It's a dead cat bounce.
Yeah, exactly. So, but there are other factors at play.
Please.
For example, generational shift. So the demographic group of South Korea, one of the largest demographics in South Korea is us, millennials. These are the children of second generation baby boomers. And now we've come to an age, the millennials have come to an age where they are having kids. That seems to be driving the trend. So actually, that does not make sense.
Yeah, that does not make sense.
This is not,
because every single year people...
so that actually does not make sense.
Compare?
No. Maybe it's because we see other millennials getting married. It's like a pandemic in itself where it's like, oh, maybe I should get married. Oh, I should get married. Oh,
yeah, I'm kind of feeling that.
You feel the
pressure.
FOMO?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Maybe you'll be a dad soon.
But FOMO's never good.
It's not a good reason for having a kid.
Yeah.
Definitely. South Korean government has also implemented various policies to address the declining birth rate, like financial incentives for families, support for childcare, and efforts to provide a better work-life balance. I haven't seen that effort yet. Do you feel it?
Yeah, there are some policies like matchmaking
and
posted
like
by the government. And I was actually wishing those would be the reasons to this bounce.
Well, I don't think they actually contributed too much. But I do think like if you're at the edge, like you're like deciding, you know, oh, maybe or maybe not.
Yeah.
Then that kind of pushes you over. Okay, I'm getting that money.
Yeah.
Despite this progress, challenges still remain. Birth rates continue to vary across regions. Urban areas like Seoul are still experiencing incredibly low numbers. In rural areas, the problem is there's still low birth rate, and also Korean people are not having kids anymore.
What does that mean?
It's mostly non-Korean people.
Oh, okay.
I'm an international couple myself. We're taking over.
Oh, right.
The pure Korean gene is about to get
As long as we have more
extinct.
people, whatever.
Yeah. We need hands.
We need to save the country first.
Yeah. Anyway, birth rate is still extremely low compared to what we actually need to replace our existing population, which is 2.1. The latest data revealed that there were actually 120,000 more deaths than births last year. So we're slowly making a shift. South Korea's population peaked at 51 million in 2020, and it's expected to shrink to 36 million by 2072, which actually seems quite far away. And to be honest, at that point, it's not my problem.
Wow. What?
The biggest problem is this. Among that 36 million, like 70% are
elderly,
seniors, elder people. There will be a Tinder for seniors probably at 2072.
Yeah, so for those of you who might not know why this population decline has been happening, is there's no jobs in the rural area. Everyone's flocks to Seoul. Seoul's prices of housing and living costs all go up. People can't sustain themselves. How can you even manage a marriage, which is very expensive? It's very materialistic too. How can you even raise a baby in this competitive society? You need to go to private academies. You don't want to put your children in that.
Raising a child is very expensive.
It's very expensive. All these economic, societal problems, structural problems, all combined. And there's also gender conflicts as well on top of that. So this all mashed up. And on top of that, even more recently, there's a unilateral joint bill that passed in the Congress for pension reformation. But there was super big backlash on that because it basically said, oh, the younger generation, you pay more because our pension is depleting. So if the lawmakers are making decisions like that, like how are younger people gonna think of like, let's have babies and
this country has a bright future. And I think, to be honest, the media, maybe YouTubers, we actually, I think, make it work. Like we're reporting the problem and that's part of our job, right? But at the same time, because everybody's talking about, oh, no one's having kids, this country's fucked, that makes me not want to have kids.
I disagree. Even if it were not for the media, the reality is like that, and the media is just presenting that on display. That's what media's existence is for. Like, you need to tackle those societal problems so that it makes more buzz, and the lawmakers and the administration and everybody gets their attention on it and becomes a social problem, and then we make more policies beneficial to our society and like a more baby welcoming society and all. You might have a point that the media is spreading more word about the problem, and it might in short term.
Now I understand China,
in short term affect individualistic minds, but in the long term, I think that's what media should do in order to make big reformation. I think it's definitely needed.
You know what I
more
think
money, subsidiaries.
the government needs to do? I think they should make these Disney-like cartoons for the kids about how it's nice to have lots of babies.
For real?
Brainwash these kids.
It's not the 1950s.
Our generation's fucked, but at least the next generation. Put that shit on TikTok.
We need a massive reformation in our whole societal structure. We need to disperse Seoul. I think that's the biggest problem. We need government organizations to different regions, make more jobs in different regions, make it more easier and affordable for housing. That's the first thing. But then I recently went to Singapore, and then they have houses.
Rental condos.
Rental condos for like marriage. I heard so many people get married very early just because they get that house. So those kind of policies, we can crawl from different nations.
I mean, in Korea, we have a similar policy. You can get a rental condo for very cheap in Korea that you can live up to like 10 years.
But then it's all like lottery, right? And the competition is super high.
It's not that high.
If you go to like unpopular areas.
That's the problem though. Like, okay, in
that's
Korea,
why the Seoul thing.
So many cheap houses outside of Seoul. But everybody just wants to live in Seoul, and they think their life is a failure if they don't live in Seoul.
I don't think it's like a preference issue. It's just that there are no jobs, there's no economy there.
There's no economy.
There's no choice but to live in Seoul. Anyways, I thought this was some happy news, but the silver lining is you guys come to Korea
and marry some Korean man
or
woman.
The international marriage rate is going up. Even around me, I see a lot of international couples having babies.
Really?
Yeah, time for you.
Yeah.
Please come to Korea and rejuvenate our country.
Yes. Fill us up with your babies.
Yes.
And on to the next news.
So let's get serious again. Kim Se-ron's family reveals alleged text with Kim Soo Hyun. Her family has come forward claiming that actor Kim Soo-hyun was in a romantic relationship with her that began when she was still a minor. And please note, the following report includes sensitive material. The information is based on the family's statement and has not been verified by a court or official investigation yet. At a press conference on March 27th, the family, alongside their attorney Boo Ji-seok, revealed reconstructed KakaoTalk messages and a handwritten letter which they claim confirm a 6-year romantic relationship between Kim Sae-ron and Kim Soo-hyun, allegedly starting when Kim Sae-ron was 15 years old. Here are some of the text message excerpts. So attorney Boo commented, if this wasn't a romantic relationship, then I asked Mr. Kim Soo-hyun to explain these exchanges. At the time, Kim Se-ron was 17 years old. The family also released a handwritten letter allegedly written by Kim Se-ron in April 2024 after receiving 2 legal notices from gold medalists demanding 700 million Korean won in damages over a contract dispute. According to the family, Kim Se-ron attempted to deliver the letter in person but was blocked by building security, and thus she later attempted suicide, and the family released a photo reportedly showing signs of self-harm. In the letter, Kim Se-ron wrote, "We were together for about 5 or 6 years. You were my first love and my last love. Seeing you unwilling even to speak to me makes all the time we spent together feel hollow. I'll always support your work, your love life, your happiness." Due to length and time constraints, we aren't able to cover the full text in the letter here, but it was truly heartbreaking. There was also a letter from Sae-ron to Moonbin included as well.
That was really sad.
Yeah, that was
very tragic.
Yes. But coming back to the news, the family emphasized that they are not accusing Kim Soo-hyun of any criminal offenses, but say that the legal pressure and lack of direct communication contributed to Kim Se-ron's emotional suffering. Further controversy arose after a man claiming to be Kim Se-ron's former boyfriend publicly stated that her death was due to the family's neglect, not Kim Soo-hyun, but the family strongly denied this, releasing text messages between Kim Se-ron and her mother and the aunt figure to show ongoing support and care. They also explained that Kim Se-ron had hidden her emotional struggles and marriage to avoid worrying her parents, who were reportedly present during several past suicide attempts. They are considering legal action against the ex-boyfriend and also plan to sue YouTuber Lee Jin-ho for defamation and stalking. According to the family, Kim Se-ron harmed herself multiple times after watching his broadcast, prompting them to request a legal suspension of his content.
Oh, that's tragic.
Also making headlines was a US-based man who claimed he legally married Kim Se-ron in January 2025. He shared a New Jersey-issued marriage and said they separated shortly after due to irreconcilable differences. He denied allegations of abuse, forced abortion, and coercion, calling them baseless.
This is getting very messy.
Yes, following the controversy, Kim Soo-hyun has faced major professional setbacks. A fan meeting in Taiwan, originally set for March 30th, was canceled. Multiple brand endorsements, including Prada, HomePlus, Bank, and more have been cut. Advertising and drama-related penalties are estimated to exceed 200 billion won, and if delays continue on his Disney Plus series Knockoff, total liabilities could reportedly reach 1.8 trillion Korean won. So while gold medalist maintains that Kim Soo-hyun only dated Kim Se-ron after she became a legal adult, the release of private messages and personal letters has only deepened public scrutiny. The family says they are not pursuing revenge, but they seek accountability for those spreading false information. They also asked the public to refrain from excessive criticism of Kim Soo-hyun.
How?
And as this case remains unresolved, legal proceedings and further developments are expected in the coming weeks. So discussion is, if this were to be true, what is Kim Soo-hyun's fate, and how do you feel about the late Kim Se-ron?
I think it's gonna be very difficult for anyone to recover from such a huge nail in the coffin. Like, the texts are pretty much like what a couple would send to each other. And definitely, like, even if they're not a couple officially, like, it's just weird that like a 27-year-old man sends something like that to a 15-year-old. Trying to engage in some sort of flirty conversation with a middle school kid, like, that's just hard to imagine for me. That's definitely not normal. So
he's done.
Those texts are final. What I just don't understand is, like, the family keeps saying that, oh, we're not trying to pursue him, we're not trying to get revenge on Kim Soo-hyun, don't attack Kim Soo-hyun. But like anyone knows, when you're revealing these kind of texts,
this is all a means to prove that Lee Jin-ho is wrong. And at least now come up and put strength on our words. Oh, I couldn't really read the full text.
That's difficult.
It's very difficult because it comes from a very private manner. It's a look into Kim Seon-ho's thoughts.
They're very
in her
honest.
mind.
It wasn't meant to be read by us.
Right, exactly. You can see how emotionally fragile and mentally broken she is in the letter. The one with Moonbin and the one she's sending to Kim Soo-hyun as her last SOS call.
I just don't think it's, I mean, like, it's their choice, but like a person's private, like, after they're passed away.
Yeah, it could have been like paraphrases or like the general content of the letter. So I know that the family already mentioned that they've tried to contact a lot of media outlets and they all refused. So their last choice was 가로세로 연구소, but it's a very it's a weird relationship where Ga-seon is definitely like capitalizing on
That they are.
when the parents are also in a very emotionally fragile state. But it's truly tragic when we see the actual text messages, the letters. The letters actually broke me.
Yeah, the letters are...
She got very affected by Moonbin's case as well. Very, very sad. One thing for sure is Kim Soo-hyun is never going to recover from this.
No, I don't see it happening.
I don't see it happening.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That's the case so far. We'll keep you guys updated, but I do hope that we can have some more positive news here and there. Seems like a lot of negative stuff happening in
I don't know
Korea
what's happening
these
to
days.
Korea nowadays.
Yeah.
There's a whole wildfire, just 26 people plus are dead.
And it's still ongoing.
Yeah, we have like
very
3
tragic.
impeachments going on. We have.
But we'll keep you guys updated here and also on Patreon, patreon.com/DKDKTV. That's where you find our after shows where we talk more on different topics and also more on topics that we discussed in DK News, a more extensive manner. So see you guys there and we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.